So yesterday I heard from 2 people from McKellen. So McKellen's getting 20 points today. I have 10, 20, 30, 40 points for Downey. And 20, 30, 40, 50 points for Hepburn. And finally, a whopping 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 150 points for Reed. If you're wondering why, not only did they get the trivia question, but one of the 5th period students turned in a scene that she wrote as per instructions on the first day. And that's a week's worth of work, so it's 10 points per day. 5 days, that's 50 points, so that's why. Okay, so let's talk about the word comedy. It's Greek. We have tragedy and comedy, both come from Greek theater, which is kind of the start of Western theater history, and it means revel song, so that's interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but usually in comedies, or a lot of times in comedies, not so much with like romantic comedies and stuff, but a lot of times in comedies, the villain ends up having a moment at the end where they're kind of redeemed and no longer seen as much of a villain in comedy. Sometimes they come together. Now, that's not every single time you're watching a comedy, but it does happen quite a bit, and that is part of comedies. So, usually comedies have situations and characters that the audience can identify with easily. If you've ever been in a really awkward situation and then someone else has been in that same situation and you found yourself saying, relatable, that's what comedy should be. It should be very, very relatable. So comedy builds around character, situation, and dialogue. Tragedy, we talked about already, kind of builds around circumstance, emotions, that kind of thing. Just exploring the human experience. Comedy is definitely about the characters and the situations that they're in, and less about the emotions and the feelings. Usually, I mean, if you guys have ever listened to a stand-up comedian, you know that it's not necessarily that their lives are any funnier than ours, but what they do is they take a story from their life and they exaggerate the details and make everything a way bigger deal than it actually was, and that's what makes stand-up comedians funny, is their exaggeration, and blowing a common situation very much out of proportion. So hey, it does pay to be a drama queen sometimes, that's all I'm saying. Usually the main character, they make a choice that the audience knows is going to go terribly wrong. Usually it's something that is really whacked out, but we also know that the character is going to be okay in the end, so we're not like concerned for the character the entire show or movie or whatever you happen to be watching. Okay? Exaggeration is one of the things that makes comedy funny. Exaggerated movements, exaggerated speech, accents, everything just super, super exaggerated. So comedy literally is just people being really, really extra, which is great. I guess that's why you guys like to make fun of me so much, because I know I can be super extra sometimes. Alright, incongruity is something that's out of place, that doesn't really belong, that's a little weird. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Blank Check, but it's a comedy, and the incongruity there is the kid, he gets checks from his grandma all the time, then this guy writes him a check but forgets to put the amount on the check, and so the kid writes in like $1 million or something. That's an incongruity. It's something that happened in their life that is not normal, and it's out of place. So usually it's something about the situation that just makes the whole thing absurd. Or like Mrs. Doubtfire you guys have seen that with Robin Williams. His wife decides to not let him see the kids anymore, so he decides he's going to dress up as a nanny, and he cross-dresses as a woman to see his kids. That's an incongruity in his life that he caused, so. Other factors include anticipation, so the audience knows something funny is about to happen. Usually they know this because of foreshadowing. Later or earlier on in the film, someone foreshadows something, and so the audience is anticipating that that's going to happen. Incompletion, which means the character or actor starts to tell a joke and then cuts off and kind of leaves it up to the audience to determine. If you've ever seen a comedy where someone opens the door and they walk into a room and they look and the people in the room are not who they expected to be in that room, and then it just cuts to a new scene, and the next time you see that character it's like they're having already been in there and they've left. That's incompletion. Ambiguity, which is puns and lines with double meaning, so all of those times people are like, ooh, nobody caught on to what Disney really meant when they said this line, and those cartoons where you're like, yeah, I didn't understand that when I was a kid, but I get it now that I'm older. That is ambiguity. And then recognition, discovering the hidden meanings within the play or the show. And that's usually it's like a moral of some kind where you're like, oh, okay, that's actually kind of a little bit deep, and did not expect that in a comedy, but it makes you feel good about the story and about yourself and everything, so there you go. Protection, which means pretty much you know the character's not going to have any lasting effects from all the stuff that happens, like in Home Alone when Kevin builds all those traps and pretty much destroys those burglars. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the damage that happens is not okay, and that in real life that would, yeah, those people would not have kept going. But because it's comedy, and that's kind of the point, is to exaggerate that a little. Protection, right? And then relief. That's when there is tension and you're worried about the character, and then suddenly it's relieved and the audience is like, oh yeah, knew he was gonna be okay, but whew, I was a little worried there for a second. So again, in Home Alone, when the guys are creeping up on Kevin and they're like, we have you now, and then there's something that happens and it kind of relieves the stress because you know that Kevin's gonna be okay. That kind of thing, okay? Alright, so there's comedy and some of the factors of comedy. Let's move on to these questions. If your life were made into a comedy, would you be the hero or the villain? Well, obviously I would be the hero because I'm a good person and I make good choices, so definitely not the villain. But my villains are lit. Alright, choose a day in your life and exaggerate the details in a short paragraph summary of your chosen day. Alright, so I'm going to choose one act, not this year, but last year. And those of you who are in my one act cast know exactly which story I'm about to tell. Okay, so we pulled up into Carthage in our sad little vehicles because we didn't have a bus, so we drove cars. So we pulled up in our sad little cars, and the place was huge. It was like this extravagant palace, and they were serving food to the students on golden platters, and everyone was speaking in this hoity-toity British accent, and it was just sad because we came in and we're all talking like this because we're a bunch of poor folk from Jasper, and yeah, anyway, so the thing is, what they didn't know is that we had come up with a plan, because all school year, my dad, who is a hacker, had been teaching us how to be super secret spies, right? So, during the competition, we sent our stage manager through the air vents of Carthage to take the notes from the judges and to take the timers from the timing people, so that if we went overtime, no one would know. And so he had to like come down from the ceiling, and when the timer person wasn't looking, he had to reset their timer or stop it for a couple seconds and then hit play so that it didn't look like we went overtime, so we wouldn't be disqualified. Write a list of characters from your chosen day and include any traits that help make these characters comedic. Okay, well, first of all, there is the theater teacher, Miss O'Donnell, who everything she does and says is just super highly over-dramatic, over-the-top, super extra, but she's very endearing and also, like, really good at speeches and getting people pumped up. Yeah, that. We're gonna go that. That is not true at all. Then there's Miss O'Donnell's dad, who the kids call Papa Odie. And he is like drill sergeant when it comes to spy stuff and hacking. And he just like rules the secret spy club thing with an iron fist. Then you have the stage manager, and he's like super laid back, but also like really into the spy stuff and really wants to impress Papa Odie, so he really just like goes for it and jumps in and stuff, and they have like this cute little relationship where they're back and forth. Yeah. Then you have the actors, who each have their own little unique personalities as well, and your tech people, and one of the tech people just constantly turning the lights on when they're not supposed to be on the spotlight, and the other one constantly getting mad at him, and they have their little arguments back and forth, and yeah, it's great. Yeah, those of you who know what I'm talking about, you should be laughing, because it's comedy, and just know I'm exaggerating things for the sake of the assignment, not because you're all seriously this crazy, because I was gonna say you're not, but I don't feel comfortable lying to you, so just kidding, I love you. Alright, number 4, describe an incongruity from your day, something that was out of place. If you can't think of anything, add one in and describe how that would have changed the day. Okay, I'm definitely adding one in. Here you go. Okay, so the whole thing is about how we have this huge rivalry with Carthage, right? And we're trying to take out Carthage, but near the end, at the climax, you find out that Carthage isn't the evil school that's trying to hurt the other schools. It's actually Center. And it's Center's director who's the evil mastermind. And it's funny, because Center's director is honestly one of my favorite people. But it would be so funny. So that's my incongruity. Okay. Number 5, what other factors of comedy would be present in your day-in-the-life comedy play? How would they factor into the scenes of your show? We'd probably use a lot of puns. Honestly, the short little scene that we did, right, as if this were really a thing that really happened, utilized tons of puns and a lot of inside jokes. So this would be a comedy where you would definitely have to understand the situation and just what we had been through to even get to that point. So yeah, some of you are probably watching this and going, this does not sound very funny. But I think it's funny, and I know my one-act kids from last year think it's funny, so there you go. Situational, I guess. Lots of situational comedy. Probably would utilize anticipation a lot, like the audience anticipating, oh my gosh, this is gonna happen, like lots of foreshadowing about Center. Actually no, we would have misleading foreshadowing. We would have foreshadowing that keeps pointing to Carthage, and then in the end it was Center. But when you go back and think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And a lot of relief, like when the stage manager's coming down to stop the timer and you're just waiting for the timing person to turn and see him and be like, oh my gosh, but then right as it's about to happen, something on stage happens and the timer person's like, what? And the stage manager's like, bloop, got it, whoo, and then there's that relief. That's it for today, guys. I love you, I miss you, congratulations. Once you're done with the questions on this lesson, you finished your first week of online work officially. Woohoo! And I will see you all on Monday. Keep up the good work, guys.